Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Training Camp. This is our Training Camp live show brought to you by Community America Credit Union. Hey, check them out. You're going to also find your most favorite quarterback talking about Chiefs checking there. Mitch Holthus with you, voice of the Chiefs, along with Matt McMullen. We are here at the University of Kansas Training Complex. And, Matt, today an interesting day because you crank back up after a day off. But to me, it's also interesting because it's the start of a pivot to me in the fact that, yes, it's still training camp, but now you put even a little more of a focus on the Houston Texans.
Well, Mitch, this is hard to believe, but we play a football game in 2 weeks, a real-life football game against a pretty good team in the Houston Texans that have something to prove against the Chiefs. So this is where I think the coaching staff that we have and also the continuity on this team is really going to shine, because while roster evaluation right now is still very important, figuring out who will be on this team coming into the season, you also have to start preparing for the Houston Texans. And Coach Reid is the best organizer there is out there in the league. He knows what he's doing to prepare this team to make that switch, that transition, and we'll talk about it more later. But that continuity also really helps with that. I think that will show as we take on the Houston Texans in Week 1. They started preparing right now.
And this practice and these practices over the next several days do pose their own unique challenge. We alluded to it in earlier Training Camp Live shows, but now you're in a spot where you're going to have 8 padded practices in 10 days. Matt, there is no time in the NFL calendar that happens. You don't play 8 games in a 10-day span, and once the regular season starts, your padded practices become very rare. So this is the time where you learn to build that mental mass, the muscle mass, the emotional mass to get you through the season.
Yeah, these padded practices are really adding up. We had a stretch of 5 padded practices in 6 days. Off day yesterday, rest a bit. Now 3 in a row really to close out camp before the day back at the Arrowhead, a 10-10-10 practice. This is hard. This is not easy, as you alluded to, and it's hot out here. So for these guys, it's about how do you respond to that? Do you have the leaders? Do you have the energy out here at practice to keep you powering through it? One of our points today is finishing strong, and finishing strong out there in pads is so important because that will carry then into the season.
And we don't have to tell most of you who live in the footprint of the Chiefs Kingdom about humidity, but this is a heat and humidity combination because it's been very humid out here the last several days too in trying to push that through that, but that's the way September football is here and in some of the places where the Chiefs have to go on the road. And when you look at where they have to go on the road, LA will certainly be that way. Baltimore maybe could be that way in the harbor, but still it's training in the heat and humidity as well for this football team. We've got a great show for you. In just a few minutes, maybe seconds, we will hear from head coach Andy Reid. He'll give us the briefing, not only the injury report, but where this team is right now. You'll get the up-to-date look from Big Red. Plus, we will look at an interesting focus group, and we will also, within that focus group, have our own individual discussion with an exclusive discussion with Harrison Butker, who, Matt, I think is turning into one of the emerging leading kickers in the National Football League, not just kicking field goals, but all of the other things that are involved in his game.
I'm so excited about Harrison Butker, excited to talk to him today. He has become so much better every single year. Think about when he first joined this team in the middle of the season. Monday Night Football hits a game-winning kick back in 2017. And you're right. I mean, he's emerged as one of the best kickers in all of football now. And one question we're going to ask him is about one of the new guys on this team, Tommy Townsend, not just a punter, but also a holder for Harrison Butker. Really curious to hear Harrison's thoughts on Townsend so far.
Here's Andy Reid.
So listen, it's kind of the same guys I mentioned to you the other day. Tyreek did get some work today, so he's headed in the right direction as he did the other day. Other than that, it's the same guys. Everybody's making progress, and it was good to have the guys out there that were out there working. Listen, I'm just put in my 10 cents on the Jacob situation. Listen, I think you guys know I'm into team. I'm into peace and people getting along, and so. Right or wrong, we all need to join hands, man, here and make this world a place where we can go into each other's neighborhoods and be comfortable, and that we appreciate life and how important it is, how hard it is to create life, something that really none of us are capable of doing in a test tube. So it's a precious thing, man. It's complicated and it's precious, and we need to, at this time, everybody needs to come together and join hands, like I said, and love each other for what we are and the privilege that we have in this short period of time that we're on earth, as opposed to walking in fear, to walk with strength and pride and make this country the greatest place ever, along with the world. We do that and we'll be a great example to the world. So, but my heart goes out to Jacob and his family in that situation. I don't know the whole story, but I hate seeing the way things are going right now. And we're better than that, absolutely better than that. And we can, like I said, we respect each other, and we're going to be in a great place. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Let's go to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Andy, how you doing today?
We're good, Adam.
Good. Hey, Andy, it certainly looks like that you all, despite the unusual circumstances, are getting a lot of good work in at practice. Just want to know if you feel that way, and whether you, how you feel about what you've been able to accomplish to this point in camp.
Yeah, no, I listen, I'm proud of the guys and the way they're pushing through. They're doing it with a great attitude. And so we're getting better, and we got to keep going with this and finish up the camp strong, because we have a great challenge our first game, and so with the Texans. So we understand that, and we know how tough they are. So we're preparing for the season still. We're not preparing necessarily for a team right this minute as far as plays go. We're still doing our training camp plays and working through those.
Let's go to Herbie. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Coach, in light of what you just mentioned there about the Jacob Blake situation, the Lions yesterday canceled practice and they held team meetings about it. I'm curious, how much thought went into doing that on your end? And then did you have a team meeting with the players to discuss their feelings on that situation?
Yeah, so Herbie, one of the great advantages I've got here is I have a great locker room that communicates. And so I'm able to talk to the guys and get a feel with the guys. There's obviously concern, and but not to where we felt like we needed to do that. We were able to go forward, but on this. But we also understand where things need to go, and where we all need to work. We all need to work forward on this. And again, I think with that, we've got great people in this country, and we need to bring that part out in us as opposed to the negative, and get ourselves right.
Let's go to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Andy, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, Nate.
To follow on Herbie's question, when the guys come to you about a certain situation that has occurred this summer, whether it's with Jacob or previously, just how does those conversations go with those players, and just how valuable is it from your perspective to hear what players say they feel when a certain incident occurs in our country?
Yeah, I listen. I mean, that's what I do. I try to do the same thing with my kids and people that I come in contact with. I mean, it's no different. I mean, you can learn from everybody. And so, and then there's concerns right now. And so they're being addressed. And things that, change is always a little uncomfortable for people. In our business, we have a lot of change, and it's constantly happening. And so, but you gotta listen, you gotta sit and make sure that, you keep open communication with it. So, and I'm lucky, like I said, I'm lucky to have a locker room that does that, and players that talk about it, and guys that listen to each other. And so, and if we can just put color aside and enjoy each other's culture, man, we all come from different places. We're all wired a little different. If we can just bring it together, man, and enjoy each other's, what we're all about, as opposed to taking the negative, and let's throw that out the window and get this thing right.
Go to Sam Mellinger. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Andy, that's all really well said. I've got, I guess, kind of an off-the-wall football question for you, though. You've talked a lot. We've asked you a lot about, sort of Patrick's experimentation on the field, see what he can get away with and what he can't. I don't know that I've ever heard you talk about the genesis of that. Like, I don't remember you saying that with Alex, for instance. I'm just wondering if that part of how you direct Patrick in practice to sort of let it fly, let's see what you can do, is different than quarterbacks you've had in the past.
No, listen, I did the same thing with Alex. I just said, hey, try it now. I mean, we're going to ask a few different things of you. There are some things that, even in Alex's long career that he had before he got here, there might be some things that you haven't tried before. And so let's see what you can get away with. And Alex was great with it. I mentioned, I believe, during training camps up at St. Joe that when I first got here, I was asked about interceptions, and that's there are ones where guys are working on it, and then there's ones where guys scramble around. They throw it up, the sloppy interception. So the other ones you can judge and see that they're trying to work and see what they can get away with the play. I think that's so important. And Mike Holmgren, if I got it from somebody, that's where I got it from. So, yeah.
We've got 3 more hands up. Let's go right down the line. We'll go with Darren first. Go ahead, Darren.
Thank you very much, Coach. My question, because I don't know if you specifically answered it, but with the Detroit Lions canceling their practice, what was, if there were any conversations with you all as the defending Super Bowl champion, canceling in regards to protesting, because I think that carries a lot more weight than the Detroit Lions doing it. And then secondly, with what took place with Rashad Breeland in the offseason, the police, as we continue to see shooting unarmed black men that are being shot by them, what have you and your coaches either set a time aside or set a time conversation to have with your players, both black and white, in regards to interactions with the police?
Yeah, so Derek, we actually, you asked it at a time when we've been having meetings throughout training camp on it, and the league and the union have done a nice job collectively of bringing this issue and issues together. I think they've done a great job of teaching, and so that's where we're at right now. It's a matter of doing and getting this done, and where people really respect each other. And I see it every day. I wish everybody could see this. I see it every day of guys coming in and they respect each other. They respect each other's background. They're willing to listen. When we've had these joint meetings about situations on racism, everybody contributes, whether they're black or white, it doesn't matter. There's nothing holding back the communication. And I think as long as we do that, I think we're in no better hands than what we are with the young people in America right now, because they understand change and they're going to demand it. And so, listen, we keep working at it. We're going to get this right. That's where we're at. Yeah.
We'll go to our final 2, Soren, and then Herbie to finish it. Go ahead, Soren.
Coach, Mike Pennell, it's been announced he's suspended for the 2 games. First of all, can you tell us how that process works for you? Like, when do you become aware of that and start your planning? Like, I assume you knew far before we did, right? And so how long do you have to be working that in your mind? And then that's going to be 2 games, the first 2 games without 2 pretty important pieces to that defense that came together in the second half. How much does this set you guys back being without Breeland and Pennell in those first 2 games?
Yeah. So listen, they're good football players. So, but you know how we operate. So everybody has a chance to get in and compete, and we expect backups, not to be able to step in and play. And one thing Brett's done is he's brought all this competition here for that reason. So if something goes wrong, then you can fill it in and with a good football player. So that's where we're at. And we'll keep working on it. As far as the suspensions go, when they let us know, I listen, and then it's not as easy a process. They might let you know that something is going to potentially happen, and then they let us know when it does happen. So
let's go to Herbie to close it out. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Coach, I want to draw on your experience from coaching so many mega superstars over your career, from Brett Favre to T.O., Brian Dawkins. What is it about Patrick Mahomes' demeanor and his character that has him equipped to handle being the face of the franchise and even the new face of the NFL?
Yeah, so I'll go back to Reggie White, who is a phenomenal Hall of Famer, right? So, and really Brett Favre. These guys, when I was young in the league, I just noticed that the great ones want you to give them one more thing to even be greater than they already are, and they're very humble that way, and they always continue to learn, and that's the process in which Pat goes, and he wants you to coach him, I guess, is maybe the best thing, Herbie, that I could say. And any little thing that you can give him where his game can be better, he's willing to listen. And then on top of that, like I mentioned the other day, for the young guys, young kids out there that are coming up as quarterbacks, you look at him, you go, oh, he's natural. Well, no, he does have some natural ability, yes, but he works at it. He's not just complacent with where he's at. He's always working on his game. I mean, the hours that he spends going over the plays when he's away from the building it's a tribute to the kid. He's completely dedicated to it. And I just think for young kids that are coming up, college kids, high school, the youth leagues, that this guy goes about it the right way. And it's fun to watch, that part.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys. Yep.
All right, guys.
Head coach Andy Reid addressing the press there. I'll say this, it's been a blessing. It is a blessing to have Andy Reid be the head coach of the Chiefs Kingdom. When he speaks, whether it's about football or the matters at hand, it's real with him. Keep in mind, he went to an urban high school in Los Angeles, a very, very diverse high school. He and I have had a lot of talks about that. I've seen him in discussions, either third party or one-on-one, discuss this. It's real with him. This isn't something he was told to say, Matt. It's not something that he goes, hey, we've got to address this. This is something he's grown up with. When he has perspective, it is indeed listening to him as we all listen and try to learn and handle the situation.
I think we all know Andy Reid is a great football coach, but when you hear him speak, he is just a great leader of people.
Yeah.
I mean, his ideals of embracing everyone, embracing what makes us different, embracing what everyone cares about, and listening. Those are things that make a great leader, not just a great football coach, and we just heard it from Coach Reid.
Yeah, and it's real with him. And it's also, he understands the human spirit, because this is a team. And for all of us that are around him and deal with him, he knows we all come from different backgrounds. But he can understand, or at least learn to absorb, and that's what's phenomenal about him. He is a unique, one-of-a-kind guy. And so when he speaks, it's coming from the heart. Again, we've got a great show lined up for you. We also have a great Red Friday lined up for you, because you're going to want to get this year's Red Friday flag. Here we go. Yep. As Patrick's holding up the Super Bowl 54 champion flag. This is a flag 50 years in the making. Everybody wants one of these. A lot of you have collected them year by year. You're all going to want this one, even if you're going to start a new collection. This is on Wednesday. We're calling it Wednesday, Winsday, September the 9th. And you can get it at the McDonald's in the Kansas City area, of course, also in St. Joe and Springfield. But you can also go online and order your flag, because many times I hear from people all throughout the kingdom, now all throughout the world, that are Chiefs fans going, I've got to have the flag. How do I get the flag? This year, we're going to make that more available for you than ever before. So you can go online and order it, or you can pick it up at the McDonald's on that Wednesday, September the 9th, the day before the opener against the Houston Texans.
So two things. First of all, will seeing Patrick holding that flag ever get old? I mean, I know we're turning the page here, but come on.
No.
I mean, seeing Super Bowl champions and a Chiefs logo is so exciting still. So you'll want to get that flag. And what's so great about this, we talk about it every day, is that these flags aren't just to show your passion for Chiefs Kingdom. It's also giving back to the community. The Ronald McDonald House of Kansas City, net proceeds are going to benefit them. It's raising over the years millions of dollars to help people in need right here in this community as you show your love for the Chiefs. It's perfect.
Matt, I've often said this, and I said it nationally too. I say it nationally a lot. The Chiefs Kingdom is very unique. I love the way it unifies people. Mm-hmm. And we need to unify, right, to find the right decisions here, the way to do things. But when the Chiefs come together, it's unifying rural and urban, it's unifying race, creed, and color. But these flags are a symbol of that unity. I see them flying all over the Chiefs Kingdom for years to come, but now people want this one. They want this specific flag, and we want to make them available for you. Of course, pick them up at McDonald's on that September the 9th. But even if you're in a rural area in the Chiefs Kingdom, or away from the main Chiefs Kingdom footprint, or outside of the Springfield, St. Joe, or Kansas City McDonald's markets, you've got a way to get these flags. So make sure you can do that. Again, proceeds to the Ronald McDonald House, which does amazing work. When you see that they have to work sometimes with the most extreme circumstances with young parents and children, the Ronald McDonald House is phenomenal.
These are kids and families in need going through the unimaginable. I mean, things that no parent ever wants to go through, your kids in the hospital. And the fact that we can help just by buying a flag and showing how much we love the Kansas City Chiefs and how proud we are of the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl, it's pretty cool.
One of the cool things, too, is to go down an entire subdivision in a neighborhood, or go down a street, and they're all just flying those flags. It's the best thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're on this Training Camp Live show brought to you by Community America. We're going to dive into the specialists, and our focus group is always brought to you by DirecTV. But this focus group deserves some attention because these are the matters that decide games in many cases, particularly when you get the teams that are at the upper end of the league. They come down to the final 2 or 3 plays, or what can flip the field, or making a field goal or a big kick, or handling the situation, and that is a specialist group. And we're going to start with Harrison Butker, and very shortly, and when Harrison's available, we will cut to him right away to have an exclusive chat with him. But, we gloss over it. Many times we'll talk, let's talk offense and defense, and there's like 30 seconds left in the discussion. Oh, yeah, let's just pick up special teams. For 8 years now, this Chiefs team puts an unusual emphasis on special teams, and it pays off. It wins games, and usually this franchise is at the top or near the top of almost every special teams category in every season.
The offense and the defense gets all the credit in the end. That's what everyone wants to talk about. But you're right. Special teams are where games are won in the end. That's where mistakes can be made, or also you can take things to the next level. And we've seen it since Dave Toub has been here. This has been the best special teams unit all around in the NFL. My favorite stat, 0 touchdowns allowed in coverage, a kick or punt coverage by Dave Toub and his group since he came to town. Incredible stuff. And the most kick and punt return touchdowns by any team in the league since 2013. Tyreek Hill certainly helps with that. But Harrison Butker, the guy we'll talk to, he has a chance to take this group to an entirely new level as well in the kicking game.
And that 0 is accentuated because the Chiefs have had 12 in that same time span, 12 over 0. And you can also check the record. When the Chiefs get a special teams touchdown, it's pretty good. Now, Harrison Butker's been pretty good. Last year we showed you the graphic here, 34 of 38 field goals made last season. But to me, it's the clutch field goals. None more clutch than that kick against the Minnesota Vikings when Matt Moore had to be the quarterback. But this is a guy, and we're going to talk to him here one-on-one very shortly, that I think is emerging. There's a lot of things to Harrison Butker's game. We see the made field goals to win a game-winner walk-off. What is less appreciated are his 2 kicks in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs had the 49ers on full retreat. But you cannot allow a kickoff return like the Patriots had in the AFC Championship game of 2018. Well, that game would have never gone to overtime. The point is here, Harrison Butker can do a lot of things. He can kick off with leg strength. He's always one of the leaders in touchbacks, but he also can place a kick with hang time if that's what Dave Toub wants him to do.
Absolutely. We'll ask Harrison about all those things here later on in the show. The fact that he can go in there and do his job no matter what it is, as a guy that came in as an undrafted free agent, a practice squad guy from the Carolina Panthers, and jumps in week 4 with the Chiefs back in 2017, to see what he's done and how he's grown over the years is just so amazing. Think about his first game. I mentioned it earlier. Monday Night Football. I mean, you're a new guy to town. You don't even know where you're living yet, and you have to go kick a game-winning field goal, and no problem. Nails does that. You mentioned the Vikings game last year, 2 huge kicks to win that game. Just amazing stuff from him, and he's getting better and better and better. And you think about the most points ever by a player for his first 3 seasons in the NFL. That's not easy to do. I mean, yeah, you want your team to score touchdowns, but he's going out there every time he's asked, and he's nailing field goals, getting points for this team. Harrison Butker was a huge reason this team won the Super Bowl last year, and to think where his growth can go going forward, super exciting.
And here's part of his growth, has been able to kick in any kind of circumstance. We all seen when the big games are on the line, usually December at Arrowhead. We know what December at Arrowhead is like. It can be an advantage for this team. The wind currents of Arrowhead Stadium are some of the most bizarre in the National Football League. That takes a scientist to look at those. But even in the division, games at Denver. Now Vegas and L.A. not as much, but you're also playing big AFC games down the stretch, and many times those are in games in inclement weather. That's where a Harrison Butker, his leg strength and his ability to mentally train for those. This isn't always days like this where you got heat and humidity and I can pound him away, or kicking in Denver at rarefied air of 6,000 feet above sea level. He's learned to compete no matter the circumstances.
And his confidence has always impressed me. I remember when he first came in back in 2017, a bunch of reporters are asking him, like, this is the big time. How are you going to handle this? And he was like, I know what I'm doing. I can do this. I can go out there and kick big kicks. And what do you know? Does it in his first game, and we've seen it over the last several years.
Well, speaking of number 7, we have him with an exclusive interview. Harrison, it is awesome to see you, my friend. And we've been talking you up here a little bit, but I want to ask you as we get started here, just what you've learned about competing in this league. You and I have talked. We had a podcast earlier this summer, not only blasting game-winning field goals, but your ability to change the game, even with kicks with hang time, just like the Super Bowl, and 2 brilliant kicks back-to-back with the coverage units, nailed them inside the 20. What about just learning to compete in this game?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be the best. So you brought up the kickoffs. Obviously, I feel like I can hit the touchbacks, but now I'm thinking, how can I drop the ball on the goal line, maybe -1, and the returner has to bring the ball out. So if I give us a ton of hang time, well, now instead of just a touchback getting us the ball at the 25-yard line, we have a chance to be able to tackle the returner inside the 20-yard line. So it's really exciting for us now on kickoff coverage to be able to kind of exploit that advantage with the hang times. And then on field goals, I'm just trying to be extremely critical on myself, and I'm trying to push to be the best and to have my best season. So even the makes, I'm looking at ball flight, did it go down the middle? I'm just trying to be as analytical as I can to be the best.
So Harrison, trying to be the best, part of that is you hit a 77-yard field goal over the offseason that you put on Twitter. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Probably won't be asked to hit a 77-yarder in a game, but how can practicing a ridiculously long field goal like that prepare you for a real game situation?
Well, I think if you're standing on whatever yard line that would be for a 77-yarder, I guess the 47 or the 33-yard line is where you'd be standing for a 77-yard field goal. Well, now it makes a 60-yarder look extremely close. So, in most of the periods, our longest kick might be a 58, 60, 62-yard field goal. So now I'm not even worried about the distance. I can just swing my normal swing and try to make sure it goes straight and go down the uprights.
When we saw the fruits of that labor and the practice at Arrowhead on Saturday, you were this close to a 69-yard field goal right off the upright. How confident are you could hit a field goal like that in a game?
Oh, I'm very confident. And the fact that I was in the stadium, I think, made it even better and reinforced in my mind and hopefully the coaches that I do have the leg power for that type of field goal. And today we had a 70-yard free kick. And again, I had plenty of distance on it this time, but just pulled it slightly left. So now I have a 69-yard field goal and a 70-yard field goal that I both missed. But yeah, I'm continuing to work, continuing to find ways to increase my leg power. And, hopefully I will get those kicks during the season. And based on the work I've done in the offseason, I'll be prepared for them.
Matt's an obscure rule, but I've been waiting for it for years. The old fair catch free kick. You ready for that one, Harrison, to get a fair catch free kick and people don't even know what's going on and you win the game with it?
Coach Stobe always says we're going to be the first team to make a big kick on the fair catch free kick. We practice it all the time, so we're ready to go.
I got to ask you, you were talking about coverage units on the kickoffs. And different. It just seems to me the coverage units on this team potentially, since you've been here, could be the best that you've had. What about those guys that surround you on the special teams, and how good is the core that you've got now potentially for 2020?
We have a lot of leaders in that room. Sherm's returning, Dorian O'Daniel, James Winchester. When you talk about the coverage guys and the gunners, D-Rob's been a great guy. I mean, we just have a lot of leaders, and the young guys that Coach Tobe has brought in for training camp, they are all ears, and they're going all out in practice. Coach Hill's been doing a great job with the gunners as well. And Tommy Townsend, he's been bombing some punts this training camp, and the gunners know, okay, we're going to be kind of free to go. There might be some fair catches, but there might be some 65-yard punts that we can go down and make a big play on. So I'm just really impressed with the fact that these young guys are locked in and the fact that the leaders in the room are really setting a great example of taking pride in special teams.
It's a Twitter battle right now because the Chiefs Kingdom wants to know who has better hair, you or Tommy Townsend. Your wife voted for you, which is a good sign. But I want to ask you.
It might be a little rough right now, but I'm going with my hair. I think I rock it a little bit better than the hair down to the shoulders.
The whole Georgia Tech engineering thing, like wind shear and all that going on. I do want to ask you, though, in a serious question, you got a new holder here. I mean, Tommy's your holder. How has that gone?
Yeah, so Tommy's the guy now, and we've been working a ton together to keep dialing in from catch to putting the ball down on the spot. And I think one area where Tommy's really excelled is his speed to be able to catch the ball and put the ball down. So we're still having great operation times, but as a kicker, I'm actually having the ability to look at the ball for even longer and zone in on that sweet spot. So I think my contact's been really good this training camp, but I've been impressed with his work ethic and understanding what I want, what James Winchester wants, and just giving us the best hold he can.
Harrison, you mentioned leadership a bit earlier. Dustin Colquitt was a huge leader on this team for 15 years. Dustin isn't here anymore. Tommy's here now, a young player. How have you kind of taken on a leadership role now here in your fourth year, trying to bring a guy like Tommy along, show him the ropes in the NFL?
Yeah, well, it was my first year coming in, game 4, and Dustin Colquitt, 15-year vet, he was able to take me under his wing and show me the ropes, show me how to practice, show me how to prepare for a game. And that's what I'm trying to do for Tommy, because as a specialist, there aren't any older guys for you to look up to. I mean, like, I'm a kicker, so Tommy can kind of look up to me, but I'm not a punter. It is a difficult situation, but I'm doing my best to help him out, because at the end of the day, the better he is, the better the team's going to be. So I'm all in for helping Tommy to be the best punter he can be.
Final question for you, Harrison, and thanks for being with us today after practice. And that is what you've learned about kicking in any kind of situation. All right, 95 degrees out here with 4,000% humidity today, but you've got a kick in December, big kicks in December. Late November, that kick against the Vikings wasn't a day like today. Whether you're on the road or home, the wind currents inside Arrowhead Stadium, what have you learned about the aerodynamics of kicking and kicking in any kind of weather?
I think the biggest thing that you need to focus on as a kicker is probably ball contact. So outside, it's hot out, great weather. If you have even bad ball contact, that ball's still going to fly. You're not thinking about, oh, a 50-yard field goal, I might miss it short. As it gets colder, as it gets windier, you can't try to muscle that kick to make it. You just have to focus on your technique, on good ball contact. And also, I've just been doing some little experiments here with the ball pressure. For regulation, the ball's got to be between 12.5 and 13.5 PSI. Well, if I take a ball from room temperature to outside in practice at 12.5 PSI, after about an hour or so, that ball's up to 14.2 PSI, so it's freaking a rock hard ball. So we've been thinking about different things for that, but so if it's a cold game, obviously it's going to have the opposite effect. If you bring a ball out at 13.5 PSI, that ball's going to be down to 11 or 12, and then you get in with some Patriots Deflategate stuff. But I'm just going to focus on what I can control and take as many data points as I can in to try to be the best.
I love it when you go all Georgia Tech engineering on us. That's awesome.
I can't move away from my roots.
Oh my gosh, that's an analytical look at it.
Yes.
Harrison, thanks so much for being with us on this day, and no tired after practice, but keep it rolling, man. You're turning into one of the best kickers in this league.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And Harrison Butker, what a weapon, what a competitor. And when he gets it down, you talk about aerodynamics and seriously, the engineering of kicking, it's fascinating.
I mean, we were talking about it at practice. It's so much more than just kicking a ball, isn't it? I mean, there's so much into it. There's the aerodynamics, like you said, the PSI, all these things I would never think about if I was going out there to kick a field goal. I'm glad he has to worry about that and I don't have to.
Yeah, you might think about PSI in your bike tires, but he has to think about it to win a NFL game. Let's go back to our position group brought to you by DirecTV. And again, we were talking about Harrison Butker, and then we had the chance to talk to Harrison, but he alluded to the next two guys we want to mention in this sequence. And the next one is Tommy Townsend, the rookie punter out of Florida. I mean, this is the Chiefs Kingdom wants to know about this guy. Dustin Colquitt was one of the most beloved players in this franchise's history, and Dustin Colquitt changed the game, I think. The punting in this league has changed, especially in the last decade. It used to be Shane Leckler, good guy, hey, nothing against you, Shane, you're awesome. But he would go to the Pro Bowl every year because his gross was 50.9 and blasting it away. With the run, if the kicker returner comes back 30 yards, it's only a net of 20, and you lose the game. What Dustin showed and proved was the fact of net kicking is what matters, net punting. And so not only that, but situational punting, flipping the field, and it's curious to see what Tommy Townsend, a rookie, can do to do precisely that.
Absolutely. Punters are weapons now in today's game, flipping that field like you said. And what I like about Tommy Townsend coming in is he has a lot of experience doing that. So 93 punts over the last 2 seasons at the University of Florida, over 4,000 yards in the last 2 years, done a lot of punting, 25 punts over 50 yards, so he can boot it. A 71-yarder against LSU. I mean, you can't, that's incredible. And what I really like about Tommy, athleticism. I mean, 4.75 40-yard dash. It's pretty fast for a punter. Did a lot of fake punts at Florida. I think Dave Tope can have some fun with him at some point this year.
And let's keep in mind, he's also going to have to punt in weather. Just the same discussion we had with Harrison Butker. Britton Colquitt, I love him, Dustin's brother, had a 20-yard punt, or the Chiefs might not have won the Vikings game. Again, wind currents and cold weather that day affected his punt. And so all of a sudden, I got to punt not just a day like today, but I got to punt in all kinds of weather and be part of the USPS, right, the Postal Service. The other thing I've got to do is learn how to punt, because here's the thing I've fought, Matt, with the league for years, is they list punts inside the 20. Because it's not a touchback, right? If you can blast it, it goes into it comes out to the 20-yard line. I'm going, look, have a stat column for punts inside the 10. Here again is where Dustin Colquitt had, since Andy Reid has been head coach here, he had 74 punts inside the 10.
Amazing.
And we've watched Tommy Townsend work on that. Punting has seemed to change. We've seen specialty punters now being able to do that with more regularity. But that's where you not only flip the field, you put immediate pressure on the opponent offense, because now they have to take the ball at the 5 instead of the 35.
I think guys like Frank Clark can peel their ears back and go after the quarterback. Yeah, that's so important. It'll be a growing period for Tommy Townsend over the course of this season, but the important thing there is that he has the experience, he has the ability. I mean, Dave Tobe called him the best punter in the draft, and then once he went undrafted, he was trying to get the Chiefs to get him, and of course they did. So Dave Tobe's really excited about him. He'll talk a bit more about that later. But just to see what he could do so far in this camp, he looked really good. I'm excited about him, and I think he can really grow into one of the best punters in this league over the next several years.
And to be a holder, you've got to be Salvador Perez. Not everything is a fastball down the middle. You got to handle up here, low, and again, all kinds of. But that holding job is way more important than people realize.
I mean, you don't hear the holder's name unless they screw up. I mean, it's a very important job, and Dustin Colquitt was so good at that over the 15 years he was here in Kansas City. Luckily, Tommy did some of that at Florida. It's not new to him. It's a big responsibility, but he's looking good so far.
And our next guy on the specialty list, as we watch Tommy Townsend hold for Harrison Butker there on the practice field, is the long snapper. I call these guys the finished carpenters of the National Football League. And let's give kudos here to Kendall Gammon, the 15-year NFL veteran, whose last 7 years were with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he redefined that long snapper's role. It used to be that you would go find the linebacker, the Bobby Bell, who could do it, right? Bobby was ahead of his time, but I had to save a roster spot. Why would I burn up one of my 53 roster spots for a long snapper? Kendall changed all that, because just like your discussion about the holder, all it takes is one screw up, or in a playoff game, okay? Ask the Dallas Cowboys, ask the New York Giants that lost playoff games because of a hold and a bad snap.
You generally never want to hear the long snapper's name, and that's where continuity is so important. You're right, Kendall did it for years, and James Winchester now, been here since 2015. He knows what he's doing out there. The battery there, the unit knows what they're doing together. And one thing that gets lost about James is he is a great athlete. He's a wide receiver at Oklahoma while also long snapping. 2 forced fumbles in coverage for James in his time here, one on Darren Sproles a few years ago against the Philadelphia Eagles. To have a guy that not only is a really good long snapper, but also good in coverage, he's fast and can create turnovers for the special teams unit, really good stuff there from James.
Yeah, watch him after a good snap. He gets down the field on coverage, and really part of one of the more unforgettable moments in recent years. His father had just been murdered in Oklahoma City. James decided to play the next game against the Denver Broncos and recovered one of those fumbles in that game. So there's a lot to James Winchester and his character. So there's your specialist as our up close and look at our position group there, brought to you by DirecTV. And now a training camp live tradition, our 5 observations brought to you by Community America. And our 5 observations talk about the percentage of pivot. That is this practice, the next 3 practices. Again, a feeling of the moving of the compass here just a little bit. They were working still on evaluation and training camp things, but they start to move a little bit more on trying to game plan for the Houston Texans.
So with no preseason games, I think for a lot of us, we're not totally in football mode yet. It doesn't seem like the regular season is almost here, but it's in 2 weeks. The Houston Texans are coming to Kansas City in 2 weeks for a real-life football game, so that preparation begins right now. And one thing I've loved about this team all offseason long is turning the page from the Super Bowl. We're not worried about the Super Bowl. We're focusing on the 2020 season, but that begins with week 1. That begins with preparing out here for the Houston Texans, a really good football team. And that's where I think the value of this coaching staff will really come in. A guy like head coach Andy Reid, a future Hall of Famer, the rest of these coaches, and also the continuity on this team, that's really going to help as you're making this transition now from the ramp-up period, getting acclimated to football, and now preparing for an actual opponent. I think some teams will struggle with this. Teams with new coaches, teams with new quarterbacks, teams with a lot of new faces trying to figure out what they have in their team. The Chiefs know what they have. They're getting ready for football. They're acclimated for football, and now it's about getting ready for an opponent, the Houston Texans, in week 1.
Excellent point. Also situational work. Andy Reid has stressed that ever since he's been here, all throughout his career. You do not have the preseason games this year that give you the laboratory for those. You have to get it all done out here. Leads us to our second point. Stay in the game. Finish strong. The teams that finish strong on single drives, the teams get touchdowns instead of field goals, that finish strong in games, the way the Chiefs have done this for 7+ years, finishing strong in a season. It really starts out here. You've got how important is it to finish strong in these 3 practices before the Saturday practice in Arrowhead?
It's absolutely critical, and this has been a really tough stretch for these guys. 5 padded practices in 6 days, off day yesterday, relax a bit mentally, physically, but then 3 padded practices after that, beginning with today to finish this camp out before the Arrowhead practice. Really hard. I mean, it's hot. This many padded practices in a row, it's unusual. You don't actually do that during the season at all. So how are these guys going to respond mentally and physically? It's not easy. How they respond will dictate how they play early on in the season. And again, that's where this coaching staff is such a great thing to have, because the teams that finish these training camps strong will bring that into the 2020 season and begin the season strong.
That's how teams get a mentality. But it leads us to our third point, and that is growing through the grind. I can't just work on surviving. I've got to continue to grow. What about the rookies in this realm?
So this really applies to these younger players. And Tyrann Mathieu said a few weeks ago, he's preaching to these rookies to fall in love with the grind. Well, the grind is right now. These guys are grinding. And for a lot of these rookies, guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, L'Jarius Sneed, Willie Gay Jr., guys are really excited about. These guys, their entire lives, football has come pretty easy to them. They've had a lot of success. Things have been perfect. Well, things aren't always perfect out here in an NFL training camp, particularly in this limited training window. So how do those guys respond to that? How do they respond to the grind? How do they respond to maybe a bad play or missing an assignment? It's all about forgetting it and moving on and putting it behind you and learning from it. And that's where the grind is so important. And the players that are able to go out there, embrace this grind, finish this camp strong, especially these young players, they'll see the fruits of that during the regular season when they're playing much better and knowing what they're doing.
And Matt, Sean Barber's got some excellent insights on this very thing, even further on the Defending the Kingdom podcast, because he talks about grit and the mind goes together to make grind. It was really good, but I'm going to throw another one in there to grow. You've got to continue to grow out here if you're those rookies to be ready for Houston. Next, leaning on leadership. You've already alluded to it, but if I'm trying to learn and grow and try to fight through this, where do I go to help me through it? And you've already alluded to it, strong leadership centric on this team.
So Daniel Sorensen was asked a few days ago in his media availability, how do you guys keep intensity and electricity out there at practice? His answer was 2 words: Tyrann Mathieu. And we can hear him from 100 yards away.
And that's a veteran saying that. That's
Exactly.
not a rookie.
Exactly. I mean, the guy's energy is just incredible. And it spreads to everyone else, because when an all-pro cares about practice this much, when he cares about every single rep, everybody sees that and they go, well, I should probably act that way. And that's how a culture is bred. And we've seen that with Tyrann Mathieu. And also some younger players, too. Guys like Harrison, Juan Thornhill, Tyreek Hill, all on this show have talked about how they're becoming leaders on this team. There's a lot of young players here. And again, with this limited preparation window, it's not easy to take in all this stuff mentally and physically. But when you have young leaders who have found success, they can show guys the way. That is just invaluable for this team.
So like I said about Andy Reid, though, in this league, it's got to be real. If you're not real, man, it shows up in a hurry. This leadership on this team is real. Finally, our last 5 observations is we always give you the upgrade and opportunity. Today it's opportunity 7.0. So our automatic upgrade deals with actually Tommy Townsend, the punter that we alluded to a little bit earlier, because now Tommy Townsend is getting the exact opportunity that Dustin Colquitt got 15 years ago.
Amazing. And I think the most important thing for Tommy coming out here is to not worry about being Dustin Colquitt. It's going out there and being Tommy Townsend. He's found success doing that in his career. He needs to come out there and do that here with the Chiefs. So far, I've been really impressed. And Dave Tobe and Harrison Bucker, 2 guys that know what they're talking about, they've been really impressed as well. Some words they've said about Tommy: consistent, quick, bombs the ball, and soft hands as a holder. But what's impressed me most when I heard what they were saying about him is Dave Tobe called him prepared. He's prepared for success out here. And it'd be easy to come into a camp and, say, okay, I'm going to absorb everything. I'm going to try to find success. Well, he was prepared for that. He was ready to do whatever he could to be the best punter he could for this team. And that preparation is really going to pay off here as the season goes on.
We continue on Friday. We'll have another training camp live from right here at the University of Kansas Training Complex. And in case you haven't looked, it's 14 shopping days until that season opener against the Houston Texans. For Matt McMullen, thanks to our entire 65 TPT crew. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs. Thanks to Community America for providing the opportunity for this show. Let's get ready to run it back, Chiefs Kingdom.